Everyone, welcome to the Run Pure Sports College Basketball Saturday stream. Sorry we're a bit late. I had a little technical difficulty, but we're here live now. I got two guests with me today. We got Gavin here as always. Gavin, how are you feeling this morning?
We've seen better mornings, let me tell you. But another Saturday playing hurt. What else is new?
Yeah, right. And we also have Micah Bedard, Dard Dog, coming off his Mania seat win last night. Congratulations, Micah. How's it going?
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Good wake up to on a Saturday. So yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Ready to get this slate going.
Yeah, man. So we have 12 games, and we started a bit late, so we will dive right in. First game on the slate is Northwestern at Michigan State. Ken Palm's got at Michigan State 78-70. Northwestern 143rd in tempo, Michigan State 97th in tempo. The line I had last night was Michigan State minus 8.5. Gavin, why don't you give us your initial thoughts on some of the plays in this game, possibly?
Yeah, the total's down 3 points from 148 open to 145, and Michigan's laying 7.5 at home. So line moving a little bit that way. Northwestern off the four straight losses, three of those at home, including the double overtime versus Maryland on Wednesday, and you got Sparty on a 9-game win streak. But none of those games against KP top 50 opponents, and that includes beating Northwestern back on January 2nd. So, interesting kind of game environment. You mentioned the tempo. You also got two teams inside the top 60 for average offensive possession length in terms of getting the ball out of their hands. So, you start looking at I don't know if there's really cash-ish type play that kind of stands out to me is Max Christie with kind of the role that he's taken on later in the season. Starting to get more shots. He's putting up pretty good peripherals. Probably the only guy I would even consider for a cash basis. And then, you got to look at old Chase Audige. And I'm always a fan of Chase Audige just with kind of the shooting volume and the rebounding upside that he can have, plus steals on any given slate versus a Michigan State team that can sure turn it over with the best of them.
Yeah. So for me, for a main team, I'm not sure if I'm looking to anyone here, but I think there are some guys on the Michigan State side in play. Micah, what do you think?
Yeah, the Northwestern prices are just kind of crazy that they're, we were joking before, Pete Nance is all the way up to 8.8K. Boo Booey is expensive. Audige, yeah, like if these guys were like in the 6.5K range, maybe I'd consider them, but Northwestern's kind of a pass for me. Michigan State, like Malik Hall, like all these guys kind of feel like gross plays outside, even Gabe Brown at 7K. But I think maybe you can go Malik Hall. He's still in the 3K. So if you need, I don't know, think you need the value. Like this game is just one of the early ones that tips. So I'll probably mostly stay away in GPP. Maybe I'll have like limit one of these guys on Michigan State. Tyson Walker's pretty cheap, but I think they're all kind of, you never know who's going to go off. AJ Hoggard could all of a sudden go off today and no one has him. So not really a priority spot for me.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is Izzo kind of go back to what he's doing last year. He's given one or two guys 30 plus minutes and then basically giving 7 other guys 20. So it's kind of hard for me to get to anyone outside of a Gabe Brown or Max Christie in tournaments. The second game I've got here is Texas Tech at Kansas State. Ken Palm's got it. Texas Tech 66-61. They're obviously having an awesome week, with the win at Baylor. The spread I had last night was Texas Tech minus 4.5. Pretty sure Kansas State is taking some good money. I bet Kansas State plus 4.5 last night. Just a good spot for them getting Mike McGurl back. Gavin, any particulars on this game? And is there anyone that interests you in DFS?
Yeah, 128 total, up 3 points, but still not a total that you're trying to target. We saw the kind of the resistance point when I think that K-State got down to like +4 even in some spots, but it looks like it's back up to Texas Tech -5. They were going to force my hand to jump in on the Texas Tech side if it got kind of within that 3 range, but never got there. So don't really have to bet it now. Yeah, you mentioned it, probably the hottest team in the country coming off last week, but don't know if I'm going to be looking anywhere in this game, especially with sounding like Terry Shannon coming back.
Yeah, I think that's the big news here is I think Shannon's expected back. So they'll be at full strength. We've been targeting some of the Texas Tech pieces just because Shannon and McCullough were out. Adonis Arms has played well in their absence. But I think with them getting back to full strength, Micah, there's no longer, the minutes value that we were getting a couple weeks ago. Do you have any interest in any Texas Tech pieces? And then is there anyone on the Kansas State side that is in play for you? I do think that they play well today.
Yeah, I mean, like you talked about, Texas Tech isn't usually a place you want to target to begin with. The only reason we were playing Texas Tech guys was because of injuries to Shannon and McCullough. Now that all those guys are back, Shannon's 5.7K. He's not terrible play, but I just think the way they rotate and the pace of this game being a 128 total, you don't necessarily need any of those guys. Mark Smith kind of feels gross too. We've talked about him the past couple of slates, but he's been rebounding well. He's playing 35 plus minutes a game. I think he's not the worst play, but once again, I think you were the one who shared that with me. Texas Tech does not let you score in the paint, and so they don't let you rebound the ball a lot. So he's off for me. The only guy semi-like here, GPPs, I think one of those guys you can always play is Noel. Just watch him play. I mean, if you haven't watched Marquise Noel play, I mean, the guy's just fun to watch. He chucks it from everywhere. So if he gets hot from the outside and maybe gets some assists and steals, he's in the GPP conversation. I don't think anybody's going to play him, but he's probably the only guy I'm going to play from this game in total is Noel. I won't have too much of him just in GPPs.
Yeah, so that stat that Micah was referring to, the last 7 games against Texas Tech, points in the paint, Gonzaga 16, Eastern Washington 4, Alabama State 8, Iowa State 6, Kansas 18, Baylor 22, Oklahoma State 20, all season lows for all 7 teams. So to beat Texas Tech, you're going to have to shoot it. K-State has a couple of shooters. I'm probably fading this game just because we have 12 on the slate. So let's move on to the next game where I think we might have a couple plays. Creighton at Xavier. I think a pretty good real life game. Xavier coming off the real tough loss. Ken Palm's got it. Xavier 77-69. Creighton 240th in tempo. Xavier 73rd in tempo. So pace up spot for Creighton on the road here. Gavin, you got some particulars on this game and any plays that you do like?
Yeah, this line in total has been, I mean, dead set, has barely budged the entire time. Opened at 142.5, still there. Xavier down from a 9.5 point favorite to 9 points. And we finally get to the first easy court play of the day. And my boy, baby Nem, they priced him down, what is it now? 1,500 or whatever it was, down to 4K for 40 minutes. And yeah, it's going to be a brutal environment going on the road to Cintas when Paul Scruggs is going to be in your shorts all day, but just a price you can't ignore for the minute floor. And God forbid if he hits some shots, he'll crush value.
Yeah, kind of an interesting decision by DraftKings to price him down in this spot. He's going to give you 32 plus minutes. Had the real tough game against Nova, but wasn't really hard to see that coming. What do you think about Nembhard, Micah, and are there any other plays in this game that you're looking at?
That just tells you DraftKings is paying attention. They are trolling you by pricing Nembhard down to 4K. And so not many other guys got adjusted on the slate. Yeah, Nembhard's a really good play. I think Kalkbrenner's another guy who you can just like, his ceiling is immense no matter who he's going to play. If he gets in foul trouble, that's a question, but 7.7K, I think you can see with the value, it's going to be kind of easy to spend up. I think some of this high 7K range is going to be good in GPPs. I don't think Kalkbrenner is going to be too owned. I like him here. Like you said, you can have him on any slate. The Xavier side, the question is, when is Zach Freemantle going to get minutes again?
It's driving me insane.
He's been back for 5 games, only saw 21 minutes last time out. I mean, I'm not expecting him to play. Like, he was never really playing like 35 plus last year, but I mean, I don't know why you're going to play him over some of the other guys. And I mean, he's 6.2K. I think one of these games, Steele's going to figure out I need to start playing this guy if I want to, win and be competitive in the Big East. But I mean, I don't think we've seen that here. So I think you could play him. But I don't know why he's not even in the game at the end of the game. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, so that Nova loss the other night, I had bet on Xavier. And, the last 5 minutes, Fremantle's not in the game. He played 21 minutes without foul trouble. Just really frustrating as a Xavier backer and someone who's a a fan of Fremantle. They've got, Adam Kunkel playing almost 30 minutes a game. I do think that he's actually in play for DFS here for tournaments, just like a GPP shooter under 4K in a game where Xavier's implied total is north of 75. And I do think that they bounce back here. Creighton plays a little slower, but I think Xavier should be able to dictate pace here at home. I think he's in play. Nemhard is a really good play, and keeping our eyes on Arthur Kaluma, the freshman from Creighton. I think he's a solid player. Good to see him kind of cementing his role in like the mid-20s minutes. So I think that, it would only be for the, like the big $12, but I think at 3,600, Kaluma is in play as a contrarian GPP option. Moving on to our next game, this one with a high total, Seton Hall at Marquette. Our friend Matt Gajewski is going to be there in person from Osimo. Should be a great game. Ken Palm's got it Marquette 78, Seton Hall 77. Seton Hall 34th in tempo, Marquette 30th in tempo. Gavin, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, totals kind of hung around that 153 mark. It's at 53.5 right now. Seton Hall lane 2, going on the highway. Yeah, and you kind of hit on it. Obviously, good total and have the tempos. This is kind of the nut game of the slate. But I don't know if it's the nut game in terms of a total, but it's not the nut game in terms of you just stack a bunch of pieces from it and move on, kind of like one other game on the slate. But I think there's certainly plenty of guys in play from both sides.
Yeah, same. So I think there are a couple of situations here that are interesting, but I'll let you go first, Micah. What are you seeing on the Seton Hall side of this game? They've got a pretty healthy team total, but the pricing for these guys has risen a bit as they've, I guess the roles have become more clear.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get Bryce Aiken at 3K anytime the rest of the season. But I'm a big Kadari Richmond guy. As a guy, I loved him at Syracuse. I think you saw him against UConn kind of doing what we thought he was going to do there. I think when it comes to DFS, I only want Aiken. Him or Miles Kale still feels like a gross play, but he's the cheapest one out of all of them. So I think one of those guys. And then Roden, I don't think Roden gets too owned just because he is 8.2K. But I think you could play anybody on the Seton Hall side and feel good about it. You could probably even play two guys, but I wouldn't play like two of the cheaper ones. I'd pair them with Roden or something like that. And then on the Marquette side, right? What are we going to do with OMP coming back on a slate at 3.9K? I think all these other Marquette guys are kind of priced out. But Greg Elliott had a great game when he got in foul trouble last game. So it's a decision. Do we think the public is going to be off of him after he did? But he's still at 3.9K. So it's going to be interesting, Steve. I don't know what you're planning on doing there, but I think you can just go back right back to the well, right?
Yeah, I think so. There isn't anything about the usage or how Shaka wanted. I mean, Shaka was basically forcing him back in the game, even with fouls, both with 2 and with 3. And so I have no issue going back to Prosper here. I think he's an awesome play. Would be more confident if he starts over Elliott. It makes me a bit nervous that Elliott had such an awesome game with Prosper on the bench. But I think that he's the best play. Lewis at 9.2 is a little out of reach now. Just don't see the monster ceiling with him compared to the other guys who are up above 9K on the slate. And then on the Seton Hall side, you're right about Richmond. I loved him coming into the season. I wish that they would push him up to 30 minutes, but it seems like he's kind of thriving in this 25 to 28 minute high energy role. So I do like him here. The peripherals have been really good for him. Kale is back to who we thought he was, 20 to 25 minutes. His price is down. He's going to project well, but I think you're going to need ceiling on this slate, and that's not what Miles Kale is going to give you. Roden's interesting because usage has kind of spread out a bit now that they're fully healthy, but we do know that he has that 40 ball in him, and he's going to play the entire game here in a pace up spot. 25% shot rate last 3 games. What do you think about the DFS plays in this game, Gavin? Are you in lockstep or you have a different take?
Yeah, that Seton Hall front court's get real crowded real quick.
Yeah, it is.
And it just makes me nervous. Even if you wanted to go down to someone as gross as like, an Obiagu if you wanted a game stack or something like that. If I'm ranking them, it's still probably Prosper's the best play, price considered. Iguodaro gives you kind of the similar type of what I imagine will be similar leverage, and could be a relatively similar role, but they're going to need all the hype that Marquette's going to get. So, yeah, Greg Elliott will probably get minutes, but I'm pretty confident in these forwards still having pretty bolster roles here.
Yeah, same. Well, let's move on then. We got an SEC matchup. I think this is the first tip in the second window. Florida at South Carolina. Pretty interesting game here. Florida coming off that home loss to LSU where Tari Eason just threw up all over himself and they still couldn't win. I think Florida might be winless in the SEC. Gavin, you can correct me on that. But Ken Palm's got this Florida 71-69, Florida 159th in tempo, South Carolina 32nd. So this is a big pace up spot for Florida here. What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, there's South Carolina, we could just make it easy. That's about as gross as a rotation as it gets. So I'm probably not even worrying about South Carolina guys on a main slate or a main lineup context. Obviously, first place you got to look with Florida is Colin Castleton. But, South Carolina's been sneaky for a defensive matchup inside. I think they're a little bit easier to be had on the perimeter, which if you wanted to look there, I think McKissick is kind of a lighter version of Brandon Murray. He's kind of the main defensive perimeter stopper who's going to see a good amount of floor time because of that role and could fall into a couple shots with some steal upside. I don't think McKissick is a horrible play. And then like someone who probably doesn't have the ceiling to just blow the ceiling or blow the roof off the slate is Marion Jones. Like he's been pretty consistent the last couple of games. We've got 10 plus shots each of the last 4 plus rebounds in 3 of the 4. So I don't hate him, but just don't think that he has much of the ceiling that you need here.
Yeah, Barrick in the chat actually just asked about Myron Jones, and I responded, I just never feel like I end up on him. He's always priced near guys who I feel like have a better ceiling.
He's the exact play of his former teammate, Jamari Wheeler.
Yeah, right.
Same exact play.
Micah, what do you think about these Florida pieces? I think that there are several that are in play here just because it's a huge pace up. South Carolina is pretty giving. Even though they are good on the interior, they're Ken Palm's got them 12th in defensive 2-point percentage. But I'm not sure that's going to matter a ton with Castleton with the rebound and block upside. What do you think about him? And then are Appleby, McKissick, those types of guys in play for you here?
Yeah, especially with the Castleton, and this is the thing I always really do in lineups is I'll probably just make a group to say I'm not going to have Castleton and Levesque. I think Levesque's a decent play on South Carolina, but Castleton is just one of the best in the country at drawing fouls, so I'm not going to get crazy there, even though Levesque probably projects a little well. Yeah, South Carolina's interesting. They have a good interior defense. They funnel you to the 3 a little bit. Florida's just terrible at shooting the 3. So yeah. I think Jones is in play, and also, but South Carolina turns the ball over via steals, one of the highest rates in the country. But the thing is with Florida, they don't have one steal guy when it comes to Fleming. I like Fleming here a little bit too. I think any of these guards, if they hit a couple threes and get some steals, they're cheap enough to where, McKissick is a guy at 3.4K. I like Jones a little bit as well. I'm with you. I never really get him right, but I think one of these Florida guards is probably on the optimal lineup. It's just pick which one you think that's going to be, which is a lot easier said than done. But I like Castleton at 9K. It's kind of hard to gauge how popular you think he's going to be. But I think my favorite guard probably is Jones a little bit, and Fleming. I don't think anyone's going to play Fleming just because he hasn't really had a good couple games. But I think one of these Florida guards gets there. It's just, like I said, try to narrow that down. And then Castleton's a great play in his own right.
Yeah, so what makes me more confident in Castleton here, we had seen him earlier in the season, be held in the 26-28 minutes. he has 3 straight at 30 plus, and they've been in close games. They lost 2. Well, actually, they've lost all 3, and he's been at 30, 33, and 34 minutes. So that I think is the way Castleton unlocks his ceiling, is that he's out there against South Carolina for 34 minutes, right? So I think that he's a really interesting play, especially with all the savings we have on the slate. He's got a 21% shot, 28% rebound rate, and huge block upside. Playing that many minutes, he's going to be a really interesting decision. I do agree with you on the guards. I think they're more, if you're making multiple lineups, I think you definitely want to mix in, Fleming, Appleby, Jones, maybe some McKissick. They're all playing 25 plus. Jones has the best shot rate. Appleby's got the 40% assist rate. Fleming and McKissick are more kind of flat across the board. So it's kind of pick your poison there. I like Appleby, I think, just because of the savings from Jones. And he gives you the nice peripheral floor. If he ever has a scoring game, I think he's going to do pretty well. So yeah, I think there are a bunch of plays on Florida. I'll probably avoid South Carolina. Levesque does project decently well here, but just not sure I want to go up against CC, who just draws so many fouls. But let's move on here. Really good game. This one will probably be on one of the primary networks, I'm sure. Tennessee at Kentucky. Ken Palm's got it 74-69 Kentucky. Tempos, Tennessee 107, Kentucky 125. So pretty good pace with this game. Gavin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just lost it. There we go. So 142 total, slightly ticking up about a half point from open, and spread is down a point to Kentucky, laying 4.5 at home. I tend to think that price is probably right on. One, real quick before we kind of dive into the DFS side of things, I was kind of looking at the over here with Xavier coming back. I think, not only Kentucky being number 1 in the country in transition frequency on the offensive end, but with Tennessee being second in the country in half-court defense point per possession, I think Kentucky knows that they don't really want them to be setting up and they want to be running a little bit. I think that's definitely a look. So, with any game that, it's got a pretty good total and you're looking over, I think there's a couple plays in this game, but probably in more of a GPP context outside of old OT finally making me back all that goddamn money we punted off on him last year when he was being a mutt at West Virginia.
Yeah, man, he was. And we were on him early. He was cheap, and he just effed us last year. I think the total's interesting, Gavin. The issue I would have is that Tennessee seems to every game have a 5 to 8 minute stretch where they just can't score, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that offense gets anemic at times.
I don't think, so that would be what would concern me. I actually kind of lean the Kentucky spread here. I'm not sure if it's still at 5.5.
It's 4.5.
4.5, yeah. So I'll probably fire on Kentucky at 4.5 after the show here. I don't have faith in Tennessee's offense, and Kentucky's been kind of rolling here lately. I was reading in an article by Matt Norlander. I think their last several wins have all been by double digits. We saw them kind of bleed late in their last game, but they had that game well in hand, up 20 plus for most of the second half. Micah, what are your thoughts on the game in general, and are there any plays that you like in DFS?
I think it'll be a good in real life game. It's on ESPN. To answer your question earlier, I thought it might be a CBS afternoon game, but I think this is Tennessee Kennedy Chandler had a great start to the year, but now that he's getting into SEC play and he's priced up, I mean, I think it's just pretty easy for me to fade Tennessee in general. Then old Oscar on the Kentucky side. I mean, they're going to have to price him above 10K. I mean, at this point, just because, I mean, unless he gets in foul trouble, like there is no way that he is going to put up less than 40 points for the most part. I mean, he's probably going to get close to 20 rebounds in this one. And who do they have to guard him? So I think the only way that going forward, even, and I've said it all years, you can fade Oscars. You hope we get into foul trouble. I think he did on one slate, and he still put up like 35 points or something like that. So I think that's really all I'm going for DFS. Ty Washington's up, Xavier Wheeler's back. So I think I'm just off the rest of this team, and I'll just play Oscar and watch the game and just hope everyone misses shots. So if you guys are going to go, sorry, Gavin, not to jinx your over basically, but let's just get Oscar 35 rebounds. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, right. I'm fine with that too. I'm jamming him. So
yeah.
I was saying I'm not betting the over, but I was thinking about it. But yeah, that's kind of where I lean. I do kind of like the look with Kentucky. Who guards Oscar? I think he eats Fulkerson alive with foot speed, quick twitch. I think Nkamhoua is at least an interesting matchup. A guy who's long, who's quick, who's got some shot blocking upside, who's going to make Oscar guard all the way out to the 3-point line on defense. So, I think, I don't know, in a DFS sense for Nkamhoua, because, him and Folks' minutes just kind of go up and down so much. I think you can look at Keon, though, too. You always got to look at Keon under 6K for GPPs.
Yeah, you love Keon. I think with Xavier coming back, he probably doesn't play full minutes here, but I think that Kentucky plays well. Actually, what I was just doing was betting the -4.5. I think Oscar's the premier spend on the slate. We've just seen Coach Cal not be shy about playing him a ton. I mean, that's been his only issue in his career is minutes and fouls. The fouls are down and the minutes are way up. We've also seen Cal keep the boys out there. If for some reason this becomes a blowout, he'll put it on teams. Like he's not afraid to play these guys 38 minutes in blowouts. So I think Oscar's the premier spend. 25% shot rate, Gavin, 43% rebound rate the last 3 games against a team
Cal's one of those guys who, like, if you're a bench guy, he's not going to put you in just because you guys are up 20. You got to earn it, like, in practice and work your ass off, and then you might get afforded the opportunity to be allowed into the game late, but he doesn't really give a damn.
And we've seen over the last few games, he's just cut out the, Collins, Allen, Ware, all those losers. So
I think this kills Mintz too with Sevier back. Like Mintz goes back into that 11, 12, 15-minute shot-making role.
Mintz is dead. Thank God we don't have to consider him. For me, it's Oscar and move on. I would have been very interested in Ty again if Sevier wasn't coming back. It's not 100% confirmed, but I think he's fully expected to play here. I actually played Ty on the slate on, I think it was Tuesday, and he got off to just a monster start and then kind of fizzled late as Oscar took over. I think Oscar 30-13. So let's move on to, I think, the most interesting DFS game on the slate. Arkansas at LSU. LSU is on absolute fire. They're 15-1, I believe. Ken Palm's got an LSU 79-67. Arkansas 11th in tempo. LSU 70th in tempo. One note I have here, Eric Musselman is not going to coach for Arkansas. He got hurt in practice, had surgery yesterday. Not sure what that does with the minutes and the rotations. That's going to be what we're talking about most. So I will let you have the floor, Gavin, first.
Yeah, 144.5 total. I mean, this was one of the two dogs, I think, along with K-State, that took just huge money and really early money, like, within the first hour of open. And it's kind of hung around this 6.5 for a while. Man, I get in terms that LSU is a little bit kind of fortunate in some of their results and record versus shot quality record and all this, but man, this game comes down to Arkansas and their horseshit shot selection versus the brutal long defense of LSU that I think they're like top 15 in furthest average opponent shot taken against them, like away from the rim. So I don't know. It doesn't set up great Arkansas wise for me, but I agree. You kind of got to bet them. But how much are we taking away from that shellacking against the completely dead Missouri team off beating Bama? I mean, it was just the ultimate spot for Arkansas. So
I'm not taking anything away from that.
yeah,
honestly.
and so, but now you get to the DFS side, dude, and I think the easier conversation to have is who's not in play in this game.
Well, I think for the LSU side, you can say that I'm almost to the point with LSU where they're becoming a team where I'm almost crossing out the other team. They're number one at KenPom defensively. They just shut teams down. So their last, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of their last 9 opponents have been held to 60 or less point, or 67 or less points. Yeah, 60 or less for 6 of those 8 teams. I don't know. I just have a feeling that, like you said, Arkansas just settles for a bunch of shitty shots in this game and struggle. But let's get Micah's thoughts here on the game overall. And then, do you have any interest in any of these Arkansas guys with the minutes rotations? The pricing is low on a couple of guys.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw a montage of like Will Wade's press conference, and they're like, "Man, Will Wade's in a great mood this week." I was like, probably because his team's really good, and probably because I don't know how I went to LSU. I don't know how he still has a job, but hey, I'm happy that he does. And on the Arkansas side, like you said, it's just, man, Trey Wade led them in minutes last game. Keith Smart's going to be the interim coach. Like, Arkansas is just a tough spot, man. I mean, Devo Davis is probably the best play on the team, but I mean, there's no uncertainty with Muss. What is Keith Smart going to do? I think Arkansas is just very risky. I think I might just limit myself to one of these guys. And like I said, LSU's this is a defensive stopper team. I mean, you don't want to go in on Tariq and Darius Days. Even Efton Reed is offensively challenged, but he's really good on the defensive side. I think Eric Gaines I've always thought he's a really good player, and he has just had guys in front of him. And now that he's going to be the focal point, I mean, he had a huge usage number against Florida. He basically won them that game. I think Gaines is a great play here. Brandon Murray's more on the scoring side, but Eason, are people going to go away from him after his 7-minute 5-foul performance against Florida? I think that'd be a mistake here. And, I think you could play multiple players from LSU for sure and feel good about it. Arkansas, I mean, I think it's easy to feel good about your LSU plays. It is just plugging in these Arkansas guys, especially against a good LSU defense. I just don't even know if it's worth it. But I feel like in GPP, one of these guys, since they're so cheap, between, Trey Wade's $3K, but you'll just have to kind of see. But LSU's just got some great plays on their side for sure. And I think they cover that 6.5 spread. Obviously, do you just automatically trust KenPom? But I think either this is like a come down to last possession game, or LSU just blows them out. So I think there's really no in between here.
Yeah, I think Devo Davis is in play just because he seems like the only guy who's got consistent minutes, no matter if he starts or not. I would be a little more. He's been coming off the bench as this 6th man playing 28 to 32. I do like Devo here at 4-1. You just don't see him at that price often. He is a 6K player, so like the only reason he's at 4K right now is because Muss is just an egghead. But I think the only guy I would play on Arkansas is Devo, and I think he's in consideration for a main team. It's just, it's tough running up against this defense like we've been talking about. Gavin, who interests you on the LSU side? Are you going back to your boy Darius Days?
I'm so fucking done with Darius Days. I mean, he has a special hotel room in my doghouse, like no other, kind of like what Oscar had last year. But I don't like. Tari Easton is not a bad play. He's a fine play in this environment. Arkansas is kind of a sneaky rebounding team, so they're not just going to be able to just blast them on the boards, kind of like they've been able to do in a couple games. I just kind of found myself going up from Tari into the 9K guys, and then I'm probably going to go Gaines and Murray. I think I really like Murray in this spot, and I think Gaines they both give really solid floor. I think Murray still has some kind of untapped upside as a freshman in this spot, where he might Arkansas is probably going to turn the ball over here. And I have to imagine a couple of those are coming from Gaines and Murray. I don't even think Milwaukee Wilkinson is out of the question either. I think he got the minutes because of the Easton foul trouble last game. So you probably shouldn't expect 32, but in a GPP context, I think he's a fine play as well.
Yeah, agreed. Half. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have at least Gaines or Murray in every lineup for sure, just because they are so cheap. And then usually I set rules, but I mean, I really don't think it's out of the question to play Days and Eason in the lineup. Is it probably going to be optimal? No, but I mean, you could have a game where Eason just gets all the blocks and steals, and they're still cheap enough to be good plays. I'm not going to have a lot of it, but yeah, I mean, I think if you're building one lineup, definitely you want to have at least two of these LSU guys. And then, yeah, I think that Gaines is just a really good play. And so, yeah, I don't think it's out of the question there.
Yeah, I mean, they're implied for 80 points here. So,
yeah.
All right, let's move on. We got a Big Ten matchup, Rutgers at Maryland. KenPom's got it 70 to 65. That's a little bit higher than I anticipated to see, honestly. Rutgers 257 in tempo, Maryland 195 in tempo. Gavin, anything on this game? Any bets? And then does anyone interest you in DFS?
No, let's see. Well, first KenPom, I mean, that's pretty much right where the spread is, 135. Maryland moved from 5-point favorites to 4.5. How many road wins does one Rutgers have this year?
One? None?
Not a single win away from the rack.
Wow.
I actually just found that kind of when I pulled up the page, but yeah, not an ideal DFS environment. I think I want, if I had to bet, I'd probably bet Maryland in this spot. Like we've seen that Rutgers offense go really bad on the road in some spots. They've gotten blown out too in a couple of these spots, like losing by 25 to Illinois. 35 to Illinois, 14 to Seton Hall, 17 to Penn State. So I probably lean Maryland on the bet side, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know when it comes to DFS. This might be like a Geo Baker pass spot for me, almost on the entire game as a whole.
Yeah. So real quick, Barrett in the chat brings up something that we've been talking about. Bigs against Maryland has been a thing. They have gotten crushed by big men. And old Cliff, his minutes are ticking up a bit. I think that he's an interesting tournament play here. He played 33 minutes in their last game, 35 in the previous close game with a blowout kind of sandwiched in there. I think if Cliff gets 32 plus minutes here, he could be a really good tournament play. Geo Baker's going to project well. He's probably too cheap at 4.7. Great rates across the board, probably a 6K guy. The only issue I have with playing these two, Micah, is maybe opportunity costs, not being able to play, an LSU piece or something like that. What do you think about those two guys? And then is there anyone on Maryland that interests you? To me, they look like they're all just kind of appropriately priced.
Yeah, I remember Wahab last year, just talking about Maryland. That's the only guy I'd semi-consider, and he just doesn't get the minutes. And last year on Georgetown, I think we played him pretty cheap a couple of times, and he crushed. But, I mean, this Maryland team just always spreads it out. So I'm not really looking at anyone there. Yeah, Cliff is, like you mentioned, I think he's a decent GPP play for sure. I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. As Gavin mentioned, I think, and this is just in terms of general, I think 7.5 to 8.5K, that range is going to decide the slate. So it's going to be pretty interesting there. But I do think Geo Baker's too cheap here, but he's a good play. And then, I mean, those are really the only two guys I'm really considering. Wahab will probably be in my pool, but won't go out of my way to play any of him. I think Baker, like I said, Baker's probably a good play, and then you can kind of move on, except for Cliff and GPP.
Yeah. Barrick in the chat says Tyler freaking Wall crushed this Maryland team inside. Yep, I did watch that game. So yeah, I might have more interest in Cliff here than most. Not a main team play by any means, but would definitely play him in some tournaments. Let's move on. West Virginia at Kansas. Wow, tough spot for West Virginia going into fog here on a Saturday. Ken Palm's got it KU 79-68. West Virginia 201st in tempo. Kansas 74th in tempo. Gavin, what do you got here?
Yeah, so we got a spread, total right around 145. Kansas laying just outside of double digits, 11 and a half, depending on where you're looking. So, yeah, you got to start with Kansas at least. I don't know if I really have anything on the betting side of this game whatsoever, total spread wise, kind of just to stay away and watch. But yeah, when you go to the DFS side, Christian Braun, like, look, he's been serviceable the entire year for the most part, but he's at this point kind of more of a strong floor play than a real ceiling play at 8.6. Agbaji's kind of similarly. So it's just I can't see myself getting to these guys over some of the other high sevens, low 8K guys. I think Taz is going to be interesting. Does Taz project well over there? Yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of interested in Taz getting the pace up with. I don't think that KU perimeter defense is that great. Braun and Agbaji, they're solid, but they're nothing you really want to worry about. And Sean McNeil is kind of more of the floor guy, but yeah, I'm not the guy that usually gets to Gabe. That's for others, and I ended up getting buried by him last slate. So be it. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm at on the DFS side.
Yeah, same. I think West Virginia for me would be Taz or pass personally. This is a big game for him, kind of like a spotlight game. He's had two under his belt now since he was out, and his price is down. We've seen him over 8K the whole year. Micah, what do you think about Taz? And then is there anyone on KU that is catching your eye?
Yeah, I think there's a good spot for Taz and GPPs. I think you mentioned all the reasons he's coming back, and he's had a couple games where he's coming back from the COVID pause. And I think, Gavin, you were talking about Sean Floor McNeil. That's what I like to call him, as he's really good at being on the court and not fouling and threes in general. But I mean, he's a guy who's got it, like, for him to kill you and be like, man, I wish I would have played Sean McNeil. Like, he's got to put up like 30 in real life points, which I mean, maybe he can do, but I don't think he's going to do that against Kansas with Brown or Agbaji guarding him. I think they have to put Agbaji, I would guess, on Taz, but we'll see there. I think that Taz, like you said, is just move on and just play him, and that's about it. Kansas side, yeah, Brown is too expensive. Agbaji is still right there. Jalen Wilson, Wednesday night, on the slate, he did decent. He's getting the minutes now. I mean, I think at 5, I mean, this is a guy that was in the 7-8Ks last year, and obviously
I played him on Wednesday.
Yeah, and obviously he's not – I don't think he has necessarily the ceiling with all these guys in the usage, but he's a decent play. So I think Kansas may be one of these guys, but I think Taz is probably the best play overall in the game.
Yeah, I do have interest in Taz here. I think he's going to play the entire game, and I think he's going to play well. He doesn't – he projects pretty well, probably just because their implied total is under 70. But if West Virginia keeps this game within 10, it's going to be because Taz is scoring 25 to 30 real points. So I think he's an awesome tournament play. On Kansas, for me, I like Agbaji just because he's going to play the whole game and his price is coming down a bit. Man, if Agbaji's price was where Taz's was, I would play him on this slate for sure. Tournament only there at 8K. And then you took my thoughts on Jalen Wilson. I agree. Good tournament play. Just kind of want to see him just continually to like gradually get more usage in minutes. So I think that's the direction Self is going, kind of phasing out the Lightfoots of the world, which is probably good for Kansas. So let's move on here to the worst game on the slate. We will keep this one quick. Texas at Iowa State. Really good real life game, I think. Ken Palm's got a Texas 60-59. Texas playing like an absolute snail, 353rd in tempo, just tilting everyone. Iowa State 241. They've dropped a couple after their hot start. Gavin, what do you think overall in the game, since I'm not sure if we're going to have any DFS plays here?
Yeah, I got a half unit on Iowa State plus 2.5, and I kind of hate it, but I just, this, God, these are just two brutal defenses to face. I wish it was a little bit later start so we get a little bit more of that Hilton magic for Iowa State, but just trying to fade Texas going on the road after looking really good against OU in their last game. So I just kind of took the half unit stab. Definitely not going to watch this game. I would not recommend watching it without a brown paper bag over your head. But other than that, it should be a meat grinder of a game.
Yeah, same. I probably won't bet it. Maybe live it if a team goes down big early, just because I don't see either team kind of running away with this one. Mike, any thoughts here? I know Trey Mitchell is expected back. If he starts, he's at 3.9K. This is a guy who's been over 7K all season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's only like piece. And Gavin mentions a little later game. I don't think you get that news, and you've got all your cheap plays in the earlier game. So we'll be kind of actually, I forgot what time that is that game. Yeah, it's a 1:00 game. So it's tipping a little bit later, but Arkansas LSU at the same time. So that's the only thing I would worry about here. It's funny, last year we'd be targeting the hell out of this game when you got Shaka Smart and Prom still there. And now this game is just like, nah, I'll pass. So that's Trey Mitchell or bust there.
Yep, same. Hunter has been good for Iowa State, but we will hope that he struggles here and we get him cheap on the next slate.
Yeah, he's not facing KU this time like he was last slate. This is a much different matchup.
Yep. So next game, I think, is a pretty good one for DFS. We have, I think, the highest total on the slate, maybe second highest. NC State at Duke. NC State's played well recently. Ken Palm's got a Duke 83-68. NC State 211th in tempo, Duke 91st. Gavin, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, second best total on the slate, ducked under. It opened at 151. It's now 149.5, but Duke's still laying 13.5. I mean, like, yeah, we have to look at Duke. I played Paolo on the last slate, and he was like less than 20% owned with the best team total. And he took 23 freaking shots. And
didn't hit value, even though he played his ass off.
If I would have told you that Boncaro was going to take 23 shots and play 37 minutes at 15% ownership, you would have played him. You would have jammed him, not even think twice.
And you would have been disappointed with his score. He scored like 33 fantasy points.
34.75 anyway. But I do got some interest in both of those forwards.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see, because there's plenty of savings in terms of the value with Nembhard, with guys like Murray, and if you wanted to play Devo or Prosper, something like that, there's definitely ways to get up to them, and they got to be in consideration. I feel like some of the time people just play Alondis and JLR against and Wake, and nobody played many of the Duke guys. But you got to play AJ Griffin. I think he's probably one of the easier plays of the slate with kind of his recent form and what he's turned into over the last week plus.
Do we know if K is back for this game, Micah? Do you know? Because he did miss that game earlier this week when Griffin got the start.
Yeah, I think he's going to be back in this one. I haven't seen anything that he's not. And usually our boy Rothstein would tweet something out by now.
Hopefully he doesn't go back to starting Roach. Hopefully he watched that game and saw that AJ Griffin is the key to them winning a championship this year. Like, he is really good defensively. Obviously, if you watch that game, he's a great scorer. Played 36 minutes and they didn't move his price. I think Griffin's a very strong play here with the 83 team total. he didn't do much peripherally, and I'm not sure that that's going to hold. I think that he's going to be fine peripherally. So I think the ceiling is really high for that price. What do you think about, the Paulo play, Micah? And then is there anyone on NC State that is catching your eye, maybe for a main team or for like a game stack?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting just looking at Duke for a second. Like, how do you guard a lineup if you put Wendell Moore, AJ Griffin, Paolo, Mark Williams, and Keels out there? I know you don't have much shooting there, but like, how do you go? Like, you cannot match up with that lineup when they put that in place. So I think Duke is a really interesting team going forward. AJ Griffin is really cheap there. I think Wendell Moore, he's sandwiched right between Sheboy and Sebron. I think in GPPs, no one's going to own him. So I think he's a good tournament play just because we have seen him go nuke and put up 15, 10, and 10 games. So I think if he gets that, Sebron is probably the only main guy I'm considering on NC State. Helms and Smith play a lot, but their prices are up a little bit as well. So Sebron's really my only target if you wanted to punt. Old Ebenezer at 3K, but I mean, he's risky too. So I think this Duke side for sure with AJ Griffin and Paolo, like you said, he's just tough. He takes a lot of shots, but I mean, outside of that, it's just tough to justify that 9.7K. But hey, he's viable. NC State's basically let teams do whatever they want against him. So I definitely wouldn't fault playing him, but I think Moore's probably the best like large field GBP tournament play here for sure.
Yeah, Gavin's right. The 23 shots, if he mixes that in with like a ceiling rebound game, you're talking about a 50 to 60 point fantasy day for Paulo. They got an 82 team total. This could be it. It is nice to see him play 38 minutes. In this game environment, you're right. I think Wendell Moore is live for like a triple double here. So I think that those are the three main plays of the game. Sebron had the really frustrating game the other night. Was happy to see that he did enough so that Barrick got the seat. But yeah, only 9 shots was a little bit concerning. We know that his peripherals are going to be there, but if I don't know if teams start to key in on him, Micah, we were talking the other day, like he's not much of a shooter. So and going up against a really big team in Duke on the road in Cameron, I do have some concerns about Sebron here, even though he is just a hell of a player and the peripherals are awesome. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, when you're going up against not inferior competition, but a team that doesn't have the length and size that Duke has, I mean, Sebron's just saying, okay, I'll meet you at the rim, basically, right? But yeah, the one thing you can think of, though, Keats has definitely got to see that, hey, Sebron only took 9 shots. Like, what are we doing here? So I think that rebounded. But yeah, it is not your ideal matchup because Sebron isn't just going to sit behind the arc and shoot threes. He makes his living going to the basket. And so I think with Mark Williams, I don't know how much he's going to be able to play here. So I think Sebron's still a good play, but you do bring up good points just about him. I think they'll pack the paint against him and dare someone else to beat them from the outside.
Yep. And NC State has a couple of cheap guards that I think you can mix in. Allen is going to start at 3-1. I'm not playing him. I can give Gavin a minute to talk about Allen if he wants, or else we can move on.
After he came back, he's had 9+ shots in 4 of his last 5 games, with 4 of the games over 20 minutes. And, one of those games having 30. He's a gross 3.1K punt that I like to laugh at.
All right. We will get to the last game, which features 2 of the teams that have really tilted us the most this entire season for different reasons. Florida State at Syracuse, good real life game. This one's going to be tough to parse out. Ken Palm's got it Syracuse 76-74, Florida State 158 tempo, Syracuse 129 tempo. Gavin, what are your overall thoughts on this game? And give me your Leonard Hamilton rotation thoughts too.
We need another pot. We need another show for that if I'm going to start the Leonard Hamilton rant. But another one of these good totals, man. 149.5. So I think with that Duke game for second best. Syracuse -2.5. We know exactly what we're going to get from Syracuse. Yeah, Leonard freaking Hamilton and his just jam his finger in his ass, wave it to the wind, rotation, play whoever he looks back at the bench and whoever he locks eyes with first, like goes in the game. I don't know how he rotates guys. And it's so tilting. Like we played Cleveland last slate and we were very, very fortunate that he got to, just about 4X or just a little over 4X, given he did nothing in the first half. But yeah, the Florida State rotation is just a sketch pot. It's as bad as it gets on the slate. You never know what Leonard's going to do. And on the other side, you got the team that's favored with the most condensed rotation on the entire slate.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I agree that we were lucky that Cleveland got there during the week. Caleb Mills had an awful game shooting. I think you could go back to him in tournaments, but I don't know. I think on a 12-game slate, I would feel like a total idiot if I played a Florida State guy on a main team and then, I'm watching the game and they're just not on the floor. So I do have interest in some Syracuse guys here. One of the big things for me is that this is not a standard Florida State defense. This team is just not that good defensively. Mills isn't good defensively. They just don't have the length that they normally have out there. Micah, what are your overall thoughts on the game? And then do you have any interest in the Florida State guys since you're more of a tournament player than I am?
Yeah, they say no one cares about your fantasy team. Leonard Hamilton don't give a damn about your fantasy
That
team.
is true.
That's for damn sure. This is a guy who the Toronto Raptors probably love because Scotty Barnes probably would go top 3 if he actually played more than 26 minutes a game last year. But yeah, I agree. Florida State is gross, but gross sometimes wins you GPPs. One thing I look at for Syracuse, you want guys against them that shoot the 3 well and that offensive rebound well. And Malik Osborne, as gross as it is, 6.8K last game on the slate. I do not feel good about him. No one will have him. You can have like 10% ownership and he's going to be unowned. So Malik Osborne's my gross play of the slate, but it is in the last game. And then Jesse Edwards finally gets priced up to 8K. So Florida State side, Raekwon Evans, some of these guys are cheap, but like you said, in GPP, I just limit myself to one. Will we get a Buddy Boeheim slam the door slate performance at 7.8K? And two opposite, I think Gavin mentioned, two opposite rotations. Syracuse is going to play 5 guys. Florida State's going to play 11. And so it's going to be an interesting last game for the slate for sure. Going to be a tilt. I'm telling you, it's going to be a tilting one for sure, depending on where you're sitting going into that last one.
Yeah. No matter what, it will be tilting.
Yeah.
The thing with Buddy for me, like I've tried to play him a couple times this season. He's just not shooting the ball well this season. 34% from 3 is way low his career. Gerard has been shooting well, especially at home. Swider's got the safe floor. I think Jimmy Boeheim is in play. I think all 5 of the Syracuse guys are in play. I'm not sure if I'm going to play them on a main team though. Like I feel like I've been playing Syracuse guys on my main team all season and they just never get there besides Jesse. I just seem to catch their floor games. But you have
holy shit, Pete Nance is out, by the way.
Nance is out for Northwestern.
Nance is out. That's
wow. So they'll probably just get drummed now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Robbie Barron season.
Yeah, right. Gavin, any final thoughts on Syracuse, and then give me your overall thoughts on the slate and maybe like a construction thought process.
Yeah, shit, man. I mean, Syracuse's team total and that condensed rotation, I don't know how you don't play it at one of these guys. I think it more comes down to one, who fits not only obviously price-wise, but who kind of fits, the construction that you're looking to get to. If you got kind of a higher variance lineup and you need a floor, then you jam, Jimmy or Swider. If you got a safe team and you need a higher ceiling, then you go Gerard or whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's kind of, you're probably going to need one of the Syracuse guys, on this slate, because I think one of them is probably going to crush value if not multiple. So when I got to the construction, I pretty much started out AJ Griffin and Baby Nemhard. And then kind of slotted in Oscar and went from there. I just find myself this year. I don't know why it's this year, but just playing these like just slate breaking big men every time, and just trying to find the value with the guards who are going to have good floor times that if they get hot, can return value. I just feel like I've been way more stars and scrubs this year than I used to run a lot more balanced stuff last year. Like I was trying to jam 7K guys in almost every slate last year, but I just feel like I'm going to a little more stars and scrubs here on this one.
Yeah, I think that's part of I think that's I don't know. I think that's because DK's pricing hasn't been great.
Because we get Devontae Gaines for 3.4K.
I was trying to find a nice way to say that, but yeah, I think we've been kind of forced into that on main teams just because of the context of the slates. Micah, why don't you give us a couple GPP plays that you really like that you think will be a little under-owned here?
Yeah, and I'll keep going back to it. And I think Gavin brings up a good point. I think in my main lineup for sure, it probably will be more stars and scrubs. But I think, and I said it multiple times, but that 7K range, I think when you got Kalkbrenner, Darius Days, Boeheim,
Taz. I think Taz is my favorite tournament play today.
And so I think playing in terms of when I'm building my lineups, I will make sure a couple of them are really not going above like 8K, because I think those lineups you won't have to jam in the cheap guys. So if the cheap guys somehow only put up 15, 20 points, you've got a floor there with all the 6 and 7K plays. So I mentioned Osborne. I mean, I can stick to it a little bit there, but I think that Kalkbrenner is a good play for sure. And Joe Girard. I can't wait for Joe Girard to freaking sink me in the last game of the slate. I can't get over that guy. But I think just in terms of construction, stars and scrubs is probably going to be pretty popular, and rightfully so. So I think if you build some balanced teams as well, that kind of gives you a leg up, because you might not have if OMP goes OMP again. And I agree with you on him. I still think he's a good play. Just foul trouble killed him, but I definitely like that range for sure.
Yep, I agree. I think my theme on the slate is going to be going back to guys who killed me earlier this week. I think Prosper and Eason are really good plays, and I'm not going to be afraid to go back. On Girard, I just hope that I'm drunk enough by the second half of that game that watching him, go 6 or 7 from 3 doesn't kill me too much. But yeah, that's the slate. We were almost on time, pretty much an hour. Since this was a free show, I do want to remind everyone, Run Pier has a promo code going on, RPS Heater 25 for 25% off your sign up payment. I want to thank these guys for joining us. Gavin, as always. Gavin, are you going to be on the Keg live stream later, sweating some NFL and college basketball?
How do I sound right now?
TBD. Gavin's TBD.
We'll see
for the live show. And then thank you to Micah for joining us last minute off of his big win. Micah, do you want to plug your podcast?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, mic'd up with our dog, doing college basketball as Steve was talking about this year. For draft, we had a great college football season, but also getting into golf. I got a 6-6 through this weekend, so that's always good. But yeah, mic'd up with our dog, and so it's just basically for these slates, college basketball, getting my thoughts in. And Steve, once again, I appreciate you having me on today. It was a good time.
Yeah. Absolutely. For all the Run Pure members, I will be in Discord all day. I'll be chatting up until the slate. We'll be posting lineups, and I'll have a core up for the afternoon and night slates. That'll do it for us. Everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy the 144 college basketball games today amongst the NFL games. Helmet, take us out.